We are live, everybody. We are deep down in the bowels of Lee's Music. It's episode 59 of Kamloops Last Week. Chris Folds, Greg the engineer, Magic Mike, and Bill at the controls. It's election time. It's coming up October 15th, municipal election. On KLW, it's go time for us. Campaign trail. We've been teasing this for a while. Dudy, he's running for mayor. He'll be in the hot seat here today with us. And the next 3 weeks we have
Ray Dhaliwal and Arjun Singh and Sadie Hunter.
Election notes. You wrote a column?
Yeah, today's paper, September 14th. Just overall what's happening and how many people are running and how it compares to previous years. You know, how many school trustees, how many councillors, how many mayor candidates. It's interesting. We have the most mayoral candidates. I think since I came here in 05, so it's probably the century, and the second fewest councillor candidates. We have 23 councillor candidates. There was 21 last election, but there was in the high 20s in the previous elections. And but this is, we mentioned this last week. This is probably the one election where you're going to have the most newest council, because there's 5 openings on city council, and there's an opening in mayor, of course, because Ken Christian's not running.
Voter turnout, you seem to kind of expect that it's not going to be great, but maybe we can help on this show with getting people to go vote.
Kamloops has been right about average, a little above, a little bit below, and if we get 35%, it'd be a huge, impressive turnout. Anything below 30 would be disappointing.
Again, check our website out. It's chock-a-block full, and it will be for the next while with the politics coverage. Watch our show, subscribe, KLW, sponsor our show for this hot run that we hope to have. 2 people doing their parts as well, Jessica Wallace and Michael Potestio. The last week, Polly Cleek, they join us on the panel today in just a little while. Also, really kind of neat here, Jessica's going to join us. Some personal news. A couple years ago, she wrote a column, poignant, sad column. It was about miscarriages, her experience and Jeremy's experience with the miscarriages. She's, a lot's happened since then. She's going to come on and talk to us about that. So that'll be interesting. We can't wait to hear that. Mike, great job last week. No comment. You were kind of hoping for some feedback on your performance. I thought you did a great job.
Thank you. You know, I was sort of excited about seeing some comments or something, but I guess I know my place, and I just need to be on this side of the mixer.
My comment to you is you did a great job.
Absolutely.
And one of my favorite parts was our sponsorship stories that we do. I mean, this is true stories too.
Absolutely true.
And we have one again, because yesterday I know all 3 of us, and we do this every single Tuesday. We have for a long time. We went to the wildlife park together.
You know, I love the wildlife park, all those animals, and I don't know if you know this, but I'm a 3rd generation bellower.
A 3rd generation what, sorry?
Bellower.
Bellower?
Cow bellower. Yeah, at cows going across the side
bellower.
of the height.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you got to be able to do that. And 3rd generation, my grandfather started. He used to run the research station here in Kamloops.
By the airport.
Yep. Yeah. And,
I know sometimes you dress up as cows.
Yes, absolutely.
That's right. And as an audio engineer, I figured out why cows don't respond to you when you drive by and moo at them. It's because of the Doppler effect. The pitch goes down, so I figured out how to moo at them while you're driving by, so it doesn't go moo, right? So you got to go
goes up. Yes.
Yeah, you got to go quite a bit higher.
And I know there's something in here about our sponsors too.
I know. You know, it's milk is in my coffee every morning, and I just wondered where that came from.
Yes, absolutely, and it's from the cows. That's right. And I don't have any sugar in my coffee. Like, I don't do that. And when I was at the wildlife park, I was wondering, you know, it's a pretty sweet setup there, right? But what's a really good sweet setup is the peppers over at New Leaf Market.
And part of the reason you don't need sugar in your coffee, because McDonald's coffee, it's just too sweet all the time. Everything about it. No, I'm not. It's too sweet. It's just so sweet. It's so good.
It's not bitter.
It's not bitter. It's not too sweet. It's just so sweet.
Yeah.
I also thought it was cool that we saw the hawks together at the wildlife park, and they were swooping down. And what were they picking up to kind of go down there and pick up?
Oh, they're picking up all sorts of vegetables.
All sorts of vegetables, because they just look so succulent. And there's a case lot sale happening, just coming up right now at New Leaf Produce Market to celebrate their 11th anniversary. I'm sure that was on their minds. And what stood out to you about the wildlife park as well?
You know, at the back end where the wolves are, I really like seeing those guys, because kind of like dogs, and they, you know, they got that whole pack mentality, and they sleep, and they look really comfortable while they sleep. And it obviously made me think about the great Sealy mattresses at Gord's.
If we could just recommend one thing to the wildlife park, okay? Go to Gord's on the North Shore. And talk to Gord Stevens about getting Sealy products into the wildlife park, because your animals, they'd sleep so much better, they'd be more alert when the customers come.
Probably really increase attendance.
And money for you.
Yep.
And you know who's money for us? All of our sponsors. And New Leaf's 11th anniversary celebration starts this Friday. Goes till September 19th. It's a case lot sale. It's the lowest prices of the season. Hundreds of dollars worth of GCs as well. Mike, do you want to say something here? You're perched over.
No, I'm just ready.
Okay.
I'm in the ready.
Okay, let's get on to talking to Dieter Dudy right after this message from the New Leaf Produce Market. This is a beautiful Wednesday morning at the New Leaf Produce Market. Despite the rain, and yes, it does look dreary, I know one man who is extremely happy. Matter of fact, he always is. He's always smiling, but especially today, because this Friday, it's the case lot sale, the lowest prices of the season at the New Leaf Produce Market. Right, Hermels? What do we have going? Well, we've got the Roma tomatoes are $29 for a 25-pound case. How about that deal? And how about those Oliver BC grown hot peppers? $29 for a 10-pound case. What a deal that is. Cabbage, red beets, Walla Walla onions, Bartlett pears. They're from Winfield. The green peppers, the red peppers. Where are they from? Kamloops. You're shopping local. Just like the carrots too. Kamloops grown. Yes, I haven't forgotten, Herman, the world famous apple juice. All part of the case lot sale starting this Friday, running for 4 days at the New Leaf Produce Market. It's the lowest prices of the season. Dieter Dudy is our first guest, our first mayoral candidate to hop in the hot seat, so thank you for being here this morning. I heard you had a bit of a rough morning, someone in your parking spot this morning?
Yeah, just got down to go to farmer's market and do my Wednesday thing, and only to find my space had been occupied, so I decided to come here instead.
Mm-hmm. Let's hop right into it. Why now?
Well, I've done the last 8 years on council. I feel that I've contributed fairly well in that regard, but I also want to maybe have a time where I can put my print on the city in terms of what my vision is, etc., things that I'd like to see completed before I decide to hang up my skates and say that's it. I just think that I've got a lot to contribute as mayor, because you have that ability then to impact some change, even though you still need all of council to do those things. But there's this thing of being mayor that you can actually bring some vision with you.
You have one vote of 9, but you have also a lot of influence.
Exactly.
And it's a full-time job. Not that a councillor job, technically it's not, but it really is. You ran in 2011.
Yes.
And you remember that well. I do, because a lot of people are saying, well, Millibar's coronation. You came 235 votes of becoming mayor. There was 2, I would say, fringe candidates who, if their votes had gone your way, you'd be mayor then. What did you learn there that you're using now? Or did you learn a lot there that you're using now? Because you're the only one of the 5 running who has run a mayoral campaign before.
That's a good question. The circumstances were completely different. I mean, I ran primarily because I thought that Mayor Millibar was going to be acclaimed. Mm-hmm. And I have an issue with people being acclaimed. I feel that they should have to sit in the hot seat, so to speak, and answer the questions, which you wouldn't have to do if you are acclaimed. So from my perspective, I went in there knowing I was going to lose. Mm-hmm. It's just, generally, it's not that easy to unseat an incumbent. And it was a whole new learning curve to me. It was my first foray into politics at all. So what I learned was that there is a process. And if you follow that process, you can actually move ahead quite quickly. So you don't necessarily befriend the media, but because I made some mistakes at that time too, but what you do is you learn to structure how you answer things, and you stay organized with respect to what you tell the people.
This campaign, you have, a lot of people have said, a power team behind you. You have Henry Perrell, you have Norm Daly. I know Terry Lake has endorsed you. I'm not sure if he's working on your campaign.
Liberal machine is what
Tina Lang called it. But,
yes, I heard that.
But it's a people with a lot of experience in politics, also in community service. A lot of these people have brought tons of events here. Memorial Cup, the Briar, the Scotties, all the way back to the '93 Canada Summer Games. How does that differ from who you had behind you in '11?
I had no one. It was just me. In fact, it's funny, I was just commenting on the fact that we're trying to get signs out. And I said when I ran in 2011, we had 10 signs. That was it. No lawn signs, just 10 signs. But you have to remember that in 2011, it wasn't people so much voting for me, it was people voting against Peter for a number of issues. In my mind, he wasn't necessarily a bad mayor. Even at that time when I was running against him, it was more a case of, as I said earlier, that I wanted him to have to answer the questions. But there was this sentiment out there that was negative with respect to how they were responding to him. So I can't take credit for having done as well as I showed. It wasn't just all about me. I would like to believe that some of it was about me, but I think a good portion of it was just the fact that people were unhappy with the council of the day. And looking at it right now, it's not a whole lot different.
I was going to say, it might be even more so now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you heard what Tina said about the Liberal machine. What did you make of that comment?
Well, I don't know that that's necessarily fair. Yes, I agree the fact that Terry was with the BC Liberals and then ran with the federal Liberals. Henry has supported Liberal candidates in the past, both from the BC Liberals and the federal Liberals. But then again, if you take a look at Councillor Hunter, she's got the NDP machine behind her.
She was an NDP candidate.
And that doesn't mean that, because of the fact that Council is a nonpartisan group, I don't refer to Sadie as being an NDPer, just like I don't feel people should be referring to me as necessarily being a Liberal. I'm a centrist. I'll come right out and say that. But I don't think it's like I have the power of the BC Liberals behind me moving forward.
Right. Okay, well, on that note then, there's 5 people running for mayor. The conventional wisdom from the pundits, such as myself and others, is that it's a 3-way race between the 3 incumbents. Could be wrong. Reed Hamer-Jackson or Ray Dhaliwal could tap into something, like you say, the anger out there, because there's a lot of anger out there, and they could come up and win. It could totally happen. However, what do you offer the voter that differentiates you between from Singh and Hunter of the 3 incumbents? Why would people want to vote for you other than the other 2?
Simply because I think I'm more measured, more reasonable in terms of that. I've said to people what I do is I listen, I will deliberate, and then I will decide. And when I say I'll decide, I will make a decision whether it's popular or not.
You won't be sitting on a fence.
Exactly, and I'm not casting aspersions here, but
but
I won't be sitting on a fence. I will. I definitely, and you've seen that in my record on council. That's exactly how I operate, and I don't see that changing at all as the mayor of the city. And I think you need that. I think you need somebody that is decisive, strong and decisive, somebody that doesn't bristle at every turn just because something has come at them that may be negative.
Would you say that describes the current mayor, Christian?
No. Well, no. Yeah. No, I mean, I've seen Ken bristle from time to time, but he's actually pretty level-headed and measured.
All right.
What about crime and homelessness and social issues? Because that's on everyone's mind.
Yeah,
what can you do? It's
the big issue. And frankly, it's as I mentioned to somebody who'd written a comment on Facebook yesterday, along with council, I'm as angry and as frustrated as everybody else. We have gone out there and we've probably put anywhere from 35 to 50 different initiatives together in the last 4-year period trying to deal with this very, very difficult issue, only to find that nothing's working. So we have to change the direction of what we're doing. We're not getting the type of help that we need from the other bodies, whether it's provincial, federal, or people like Interior Health, etc. But we're not going to sit here and try to throw blame on them. I know that they have their own difficulties. I think what's needed is that we have to change the way we approach this. We've been accommodating. I think it's time that we get together with the groups within the city and say, we're not going to spare the rod anymore. We have to find a way to stop this from happening. Nobody in this city likes the fact that people steal from them on a regular basis, deface property on a regular basis, defecate on their doorsteps on a regular basis. That's just intolerable. We can't continue to do this. So if we're not getting anywhere doing what we're doing, then we have to change that direction. How we change that direction is the difficult thing. And I think what I would be doing right off the bat is saying, okay, look, we need the neighborhood associations together, the BIAs together. Let's sit down and have a quick discussion on what we need to do to force the hand of the provincial government and the other bodies.
I think the overriding sentiment out there, and I think they heard it at the UBCM convention with respect to healthcare and also with crime, is that it's the time for studies like David Eby's prolific offender study. The time for deliberating is over. We need people want solutions or at least action now. Enough of talking about it. Let's get it going. And I think that's what you mentioned there.
Yeah.
On that note, one more thing, because that is the overriding issue that we hear
Without
all
question.
the candidates.
Yeah.
Having said that, is there an issue, at least one issue out there that is important but is being overshadowed by that in this election? Is there an issue out there that you think it needs a little more light shone on it?
Well, I think just housing itself, the
Yeah.
housing continuum is one that has been kind of overshadowed by this, because this one is just in your face all
Yeah.
the time. But the very fact that the average individual in this city, particularly young people, can't buy a house because it's unaffordable, and the fact that there's just no supply. So we need to find a way to incentivize builders into getting more of that out there. And more importantly, I think we need to streamline the process. What's happened for a lot of developers who want to be able to get out there and build units for the public is that they're getting tied up in red tape.
Red tape and delays.
Exactly,
And the CHBA,
etc.
I think for the first time in my knowledge, they're putting out a campaign asking people to support candidates that are online with what they want done. Have they contacted you?
Yes. And I've sat down with them and I told them exactly what I've been telling you, is that the first thing that I'd like to do is find a means of streamlining it. One of the things, for instance, is that I feel if a developer comes with a plan to build say a 150 to 250 unit building that's going to house quite a number of people, because you're not talking about a single person per unit, and it meets all the criteria within the OCP, why are we holding it up by waiting for public hearing and things like that? 7 o'clock we come in, 5 after 7 we walk out, because we said, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
why go through that
shovels could
whole
be on the
process?
ground months
Exactly,
ago.
it could have been,
Yeah.
So just going back for a second, we kind of led with the premise that this is probably going to be a 3-horse race. Do you think that's accurate?
Well, I know that's the general feeling out there. I wouldn't discount the other two, though, from coming in. As you mentioned earlier, anything can happen. And Mr. Hammer Jackson, while is a single issue candidate, is gaining some traction with a number of people.
On social media, for sure.
And somehow, in terms of myself and with my run, I have to figure a way to counter that. So anybody's in there. But yes, I mean, if you were thinking of it, obviously the people who've got the political experience are the ones that are likely going to be having the hardest race together.
We've also talked a little bit about people tapping into anger, and Arjun talked about how that might be kind of a dangerous thing. It's almost like a moral issue. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? People talking about crime and being angry, and how that could be maybe used in the wrong way. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, you certainly don't want to see vigilantism as a result of this anger. But anger is good sometimes, because what it does is it brings the issue to the forefront. Uncontrolled anger is not a good thing, but you can come out and be passionate and say, and as I've seen with a number of people, something has to be done.
Right.
Just simply put, we can't sit and just dilly-dally and enable the process.
And that's where compassion fatigue comes in. And I think
That's
we've long
exactly
passed
what it
that
is.
in Kamloops.
Yeah. Oh, way past that.
Yeah.
We were talking compassion fatigue in the last term.
Yeah.
So this is nothing new. It's just gotten worse and worse and worse. And it's, we were having this discussion just the other evening in a meeting where I think the point was brought up that back about 10, 15 years ago, crime was sitting at this level, and then they came out with a prolific offenders program, and all of a sudden it dropped down to this point, and now it's back up to this point. And you reach a point where there's a saturation level that the public just isn't going to tolerate any longer, so it needs to come back down again. You're always going to have a level of crime.
Yep.
There's no getting away from it. And there's no definitive answer to dealing with what we're doing, but we have to be seen as taking some sort of action.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What else is on your mind? This is your chance to talk about whatever you want.
Well, my main focus as a mayor, and this differs from the way that Mayor Christian has operated things, he was the right mayor for the right time with respect to the pandemic and that, and he's also an incredibly good administrative mayor. He colors inside the lines. I like to color outside of the lines. So what I want to bring to this next run is some vision, and effectively say to the community, where do we see ourselves 10, 15, 20, 30 years from now in terms of what we are doing to complete the city and drawing more people to us, to become residents here. For instance, one of the things that we've been lacking is doctors.
Yeah.
And that's been out in the forefront for a long time. Well, in order to get professionals like doctors, you have to have a community that gives them the amenities they've been looking for. And we don't have them.
For example?
For example, there's no performing arts center. We would like a cultural center. A public market comes to mind. Any number of those things that are becoming a draw for bringing the public together and a draw for tourists coming into our community at the same time. Tourists are potential residents.
Right.
And we have to start looking at it from an economic development point of view that way. So my thought is that on top of all the things that we do on a daily basis anyhow with your sewers and streets, etc., those things take care of themselves. They need a little bit of a push from council with regard to budget from time to time. But we need to start thinking of what do we do to complete this city. And we're on our way. I think we'll be able to do it. It's just a matter of seeing whether the public buys into that.
Mike, big arts guy. I'm a huge sports guy. You brought up the art center. I think about ice. Do you have a question for Dieter?
For music, what's your vision for performing arts center, black box kind of space that we used to have with Mount Paul Industrial Park, with the KXA grounds, that kind of a thing? I see those as key things that are missing. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, actually, it's kind of timely because you'll find that Mr. Fawcett and the Kelson Group have put together the annex building beside the Telus building on St. Paul and 3rd. He has done some renovations in there that I think are going to be coming to light fairly soon, which will accommodate a lot of that. There will be a black box in there. But this is only the first step in the whole process. We need a performing arts center. We need something that's not just accommodating the people of today. We need one that's going to accommodate the needs of 25, 30 years from now. So it has to be big enough to do that. And it will, in fact, cater to the needs of, say, individuals who want space to play in. It will cater to the theater groups. It will cater to the symphony, but it'll also bring in acts that the city otherwise has to turn away. We've left money on the table that we shouldn't have to.
Anything else from you, Chris?
No, that was good. Thanks for coming in,
Thank you.
And I guess we'll see you on the campaign trail.
Yes, you will.
At the forum, we're hosting a forum October 5th at Thompson Rivers University Grand Hall. It's going to be a mayoral forum and a candidates forum split into groups. Wednesday, October 5th, 7 p.m. Everyone's invited.
And we're going to get some more election analysis right now with the Last Week Clique, which is brought to you by Gord's Appliance and Mattress Center.
Don't want the 9-hour cycle, please.
Freaking $500 hydro bill, piece of trash.
I need to speak to Gord on the 9er.
Hey, no, I'm actually Steve, the new owner.
First things first, pal, you should probably update your sign. Number 2, my dishwasher is tangled again. The 9-hour cycle, hydro bill through the roof. You guys don't fix appliances, I know that, so I need a new one.
We actually do fix appliances, but if you want, I can try some new ones first and have a look. You got a price in mind?
Money is not an obstacle for me.
Money's definitely an obstacle. He's the cheapest guy in Kamloops. Ain't that right, Darby?
Well, this here is going to be your Cadillac model, top of the line. This is our middle-of-the-road dishwasher, just a great dishwasher at a great price. This is our budget-friendly model, still a great dishwasher, just at a bit of a lower price.
Price doesn't work for me. Let's see if you can fix mine at home.
Alrighty then. There you go, seems to be good. How's the fridge working?
The fridge is fine, Gord.
It's Steve.
This is the Last Week Clique. It's the Last Week Poly Clique today. We're going to be talking about the election. Big day coming up October 15th. But Jessica, first, you wrote a column a couple years ago, almost 2 years ago now. It was one of the best columns you've ever written. It was one of the saddest columns you've ever written. Lots happened since then. I know you want to talk about it.
I guess I just wanted an opportunity to address the elephant in the room after that sad column a couple years ago. My husband and I have been trying for a baby for 3 years now, and I'm really happy to report that you might notice I'm 7 months pregnant, feeling very grateful. And I guess I'm just out in the community and people see me, and sometimes I get asked about it, and wanted to just provide that little update. Good news, it's nice to share for once. And I guess part of it is I'll be going on mat leave after the election. The other part of it is just wanting to provide, I guess, a bit of hope for some people who might be going through something similar. It's not easy to takes a lot of perseverance, and we're lucky enough to have had really good care and also had something that was treatable. So feeling just like really grateful right now, and getting bigger. So you might notice me out there covering the election with a sizable bulge, 7 months going and counting. So don't want to jinx it too much, but just wanted to let people know that after the election, a month after, I will be taking mat leave, and you might still hear from me. Maybe I'll become like the rocking chair reporter or something.
I mean, part of the reason why you wrote that column was to normalize conversation about it. What was the feedback like when you wrote that?
Yeah, I heard from a lot of people who had gone through similar things. I mean, one of the biggest things that surprised me was just how common it was, and how you never really heard about people who were experiencing pregnancy losses. So normalizing the conversation, yes. And also, you know, there's a huge community out there. I learned so many things from people who reached out to me and helped me with resources. And if people don't talk about it, you don't learn something. You don't hear about this, you know, fertility acupuncturist and this thing that you might want to look into. So there's a community. You don't have to do it alone. It's very isolating, especially during the pandemic. And not an easy thing to go through for couples or by yourself. So getting that conversation out there, it's very normal. People have a tendency to maybe blame themselves for things that they could have done. And so maybe that's a reason why people turn inward. But yeah, even just talking about it makes me a little bit nervous. But I just really know that there are so many people who are going through this, and even worse, they're spending thousands of dollars to get private care in Kelowna. And yeah, I guess I just feel really grateful, and thanks to everybody who's supported us, and everybody here too.
It reminds me of Clearwater Secondary on this show, and the memory boxes.
Yeah, the memory boxes of the students from the woodworking teachers class at Clearwater Secondary. They make these memory boxes, and we interviewed him a few weeks ago, and they make memory boxes. They give them to the hospital, and the nurses and staff there give them to parents who have lost a baby if they wish to bring the baby's mementos home. It's very sad, but very poignant, very bittersweet. Yeah.
Let's move on to politics right now. Time for some tidbits from you, some Wallace wafers. And I know you talked to some new candidates, new campaigners, and they were surprised about some things.
Yeah, so the nomination period has ended. We now know there are 23 people running for council, 5 for mayor, and we I've been speaking in the last 2 weeks around the clock with candidates. It's a lot of people to talk to.
Yeah.
We are doing stories on issues, hearing from new council candidates, people who are running campaigns for the first time, some things that are surprising them. I heard from Taj Sandur, who is a realtor in his 30s in Kamloops. He said to me that he was surprised at just how political, I mean, you know we're going into politics, but just how political the campaign has been so far. Strategies behind the scenes. We're talking about groups that are lobbying them with agendas. And another candidate actually pointed out something similar. Jesse Ritcey, he's known best probably for his role in the Naturalist Club in town. He told me that you know, he's noticed that, well, first of all, he said word of mouth is the biggest thing. Like, you need to get your name out there, name recognition. And so he's noticed that people who are running with connections to powerful people with money, so developers, business owners who are injecting money into campaigns, have allowed people to purchase more signs, more advertising, get your name out there more. They have a bit of an advantage. Now, on the flip side of that, you have the incumbents who might say, we have to defend our last 4 years. And the people who are coming in are saying, change, change, and attacking council, so they're constantly on the defense. So they have the name recognition on their side, but they also have to defend their records.
Mm-hmm. There's a couple other things. You can go wherever you want with this. Tina Lang's comments on a 3-horse race, and also something that was kind of neat, lighter side. Well, maybe there's also some serious issues involved too. This is a veteran who wants to bring his service dog to council chambers, so you can, whatever one you want, you can deal with there.
There's so much going on. It's hard to keep up because the information's so fragmented all over the internet. I'm trying to just slice and dice it a bit for people who may not know where to find information. So, yeah, we are profiling different issues. The biggest thing for people is learning where these candidates stand on the issues. We have started running this week issues-based stories. One on street issues this week caught my attention. We asked the candidates how to improve the situation on the streets. That's an umbrella kind of topic for the homelessness crisis, addiction issues, mental health. There's so many things culminating on the streets right now, crime. And we heard from some candidates who say, law and order. We heard from Ray Dhaliwal, Bill Sarai, who want more police resourcing. On the other side, we have Arjun Singh, who wants more outreach and potentially even scaling back police resourcing. And then we have heard from actually Mike O'Reilly, incumbent, running for re-election. He had an interesting idea. He wants buffer zones put around shelters in residential neighborhoods, because he said he hears from homeowners constantly about crime in their neighborhood after a shelter goes there. So that was an interesting idea.
He also wants, he took a page from David Eby, he wants involuntary admission to rehab, involuntary for those who are repeatedly overdosing and taxing our emergency services. And I say, excellent idea.
Lots of things. You mentioned George Dersh. He's the veteran in his 70s. He ran in the 2008 campaign, and he's running again. He's a veteran, and he has a PTSD service dog, and I kind of thought, that would be interesting to have a dog in council chambers. That's not something you see every day. Some interesting ideas as well. He wants to cap terms for mayors and councillors at 2 terms. Doesn't want it to be a career. We've heard that from other
We heard that from Pierre
candidates.
Poilievre about 30 years ago. There you go.
He also wants to make city council more accessible by providing opportunities throughout the year, twice annual big Sandman Center council meetings on a Saturday. A lot of people might not be able to get time off work or school to go on a Tuesday to council chambers, and it's kind of cramped in there. Sometimes it's standing room only. So he wants to open it up and have, accessible democracy in Kamloops. Lots and lots of things going on.
Yeah.
Hard to pick just one thing to talk about.
Michael, you've been sitting there patiently. I know you've been knee-deep in crime stats in the last couple of weeks, and maybe you can tell us now how people might brandish those or use them in the civic election, or any thoughts you might have on it.
Yeah, I've done a couple RCMP stat stories right now. Stats Canada, a couple weeks ago, we did a story about the latest data that they had for police detachments, and we were looking at kind of the last 5 years of how certain stat lines have gone up in Kamloops and how they compare to Kelowna and BC. People always say, like, oh, crime's worse than it's ever been, it's worse than it's ever been. So, we looked at the data, and the data is true. Property crime and just crime in general is up over that 4-year mandate that we've seen the last council come in. In this week's paper, we have, about 8, I think, the little profile pieces where we asked what's the most important question. I took a look just while we were proofing it, and pretty much everyone, I think 7 out of the 8 people mentioned crime and property crime specifically as amongst the
Yeah,
issue.
it's the street issues are the street issues and the ancillary issues that come with them is the number one issue.
Yeah,
for
you can't get away from
almost
it, really.
everyone, because everyone's been affected by it, or everyone knows someone who's been affected by it.
This weekend, for example, just another anecdote. My friends Cassie and Mark, someone broke into their truck. This is up in Dufferin, up above Duffy's, brand new development. Stole his garage door opener. Went in, this is the family sleeping inside. Opened the garage door, went in and stole $1,000 worth of stuff. That's up in Dufferin, so nowhere near downtown, nowhere near the North Shore. So it's not just in those areas. Their cat ran away the next day and never came back. So my thoughts go to them. What else did you glean from the numbers? Anything else?
No, that was really the main point.
I think it's important to note that it's not crime, it's reported crime.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, a person will have their car or house broken into multiple times, and they'll stop reporting it because their insurance rates skyrocket.
Yeah.
So there might be, and there probably is, far more property crime than what the stats say. So we always have to remember that caveat. It's reported crime. I know many people who don't report it anymore because their insurance rates go up, so they just deal with it themselves.
But it seems to play into this narrative that we've heard in Kamloops from the business community and some on council about the catch and release system,
Yeah.
because I think it noted that there were
more crimes reported, but maybe fewer prosecutions or charges, was it? So that might seem to suggest that it plays into that narrative.
Yeah, that, I guess one other thing I should glean from the notes when it comes to council and property crime here is that we saw the number of people charged. Because some people in the comments were like, well, the city's been growing, of course crime would be growing as well. But also the number of people being charged has gone down. I think it was, last year was 778 people charged for property crimes. There was 7,700. You look 5 years ago, there was about 6,800 property crimes and about 1,400 people being charged.
Crimes up, charges down.
Yeah, and that has nothing to do with city council, nothing to do with the RCMP. BC, I think, is the only province left in Canada in which the police cannot lay charges. It has to go to Crown. They recommend charges to Crown. Crown Council then lays the charges, and a lot of people don't understand that. They think the police can lay charges because in other provinces they do. So, and that is out of everyone's control, and that goes back to the federal government and the federal government's vision and philosophy on criminal justice. And the current Liberal government under Justin Trudeau, and it started with his dad in 82, in the 70s with Pierre, is they've instructed the Supreme Court to consider everything but incarceration if possible, and to consider that almost every single person, save for the few like Clifford Olson and Paul Bernardo, will eventually get out. So we want rehabilitation rather than just punitive measures. That's a debate that'll go forever, but that's what people have to remember. That stat there has nothing to do with anything local. It's out of our control.
And it's interesting. Oh, sorry.
No, sorry.
We're print people. It's interesting with the Miles Sanderson in the Saskatchewan with the stabbings as well. That rehabilitation versus incarceration discussion is rekindled.
Every time something comes like that, a high-profile event happens, it gets the attention, as it should. Even on more minor, not life-threatening situations. There was a story Michael did in this week's paper, online this week, about a guy who was arrested for breaking into the Ask Wellness Center. And he did a bunch of damage. And it's just a burglary. I mean, when I say just, I mean just, because burglaries that used to be newsworthy are now like fender benders. They happen all the time. Yeah. He has 57 convictions from 2003 to 2021. 57 convictions, not charged. He's been convicted 57 times. So when you look at that and you see there's tons of cases like that, 75 convictions, 35 convictions. A poor bastard was just stabbed in Vancouver, in Chinatown 2 days ago. A new immigrant from Afghanistan who was working as a bike courier, delivering food. And he was locking his bike up and some guy came behind for no reason and just almost killed him. Yeah. And I think that guy who stabbed him has dozens of convictions. Why is he on the street? That's a big, big debate. Why is he on the street?
And I think when we look at the issue, just when it comes to in the context of the municipal election, there's a lot of things that are outside the city's purview, but it's an issue that city council is constantly dealing with. Mm-hmm. They're constantly at the forefront. People are constantly more or less blaming them for. So I think that anybody who's running and looking at property crime as one of the issues, and it appears to be everyone, I think if they want to tap into that, property crime vote, they really need to come out with
a distinct, clear plan.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off.
And just tangible.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Actually, Wallace wafers. These are good. Any more? Did you have any more?
What else do I have?
The notebook's about 5 pounds, so there's got to be 50 pounds.
Oh, interesting. Rural areas saw some acclamation. So we'll see Al Rain return to Sun Peaks. Nobody ran against him. He wasn't expected to run, but then he decided to run again. So he'll be the mayor again. Ward Stamer returns to Barrier as the mayor in Barrier. And Barbara Roden will return in Ashcroft. What else do we have here? Oh, this one's kind of an interesting one. Kind of provides a bit of insight into maybe how long Arjun Singh has been planning to become mayor. So he told me that his signs, he didn't buy any new signs this year, didn't put up any new signs. They're all old signs. The oldest signs are 17 years old. The newest signs are 8 years old. We know he's the longest councillor. He's had signs probably stored for a while from campaigns past. But what he actually told me was that the signs were designed with a decal on them. So it used to say council candidate kind of thing. Now they pulled the decal off the signs and they put mayor. So
like
that shows you.
When you put the new number on.
Well, it shows you that he's probably been thinking about this for quite a while to design his signs that way. So very interesting.
I think if you go into his garage and you pull it back there, it'll say Prime Minister, UN Secretary General.
I've seen, whose signs have you seen most? I mean, is there anybody, like, I see Kelly Hall signs a lot.
The ones that I was noticing, and I was doing a tally in my head driving around, I was trying to count the ones that have images of the people on it, because it's interesting, right? Like Kelly Hall has really prominent signs because the colors are very bold, very conservative. But you see Sadie Hunter has her picture on it.
Yep.
The Coalition 3, King, Sharma, and Giesbrecht, they have their photos on it. There's a few other ones. Interestingly, Nancy Beppel's running the same sign she ran in the past. It's not quite her photo, but it's like a sketch of her. It's kind of neat, and it kind of catches your attention. So I wonder if the ones with the images will translate into more votes than the ones with just the names.
Probably costs more money to do the images. Maybe.
Sure it does. But,
then Daphne Nelson said that she did hers in kind of a muted green so that it would actually blend into the Kamloops landscape.
Yeah.
Almost like, so she doesn't want it as obtrusive, I guess.
Well, I noticed them though, and I think I noticed Daphne Nelson's because I think she was the first candidate to get signs out. I'm pretty sure she was, and and I saw the first one on near my street, and then I started noticing them. So she was the early bird. Whether she gets the worm remains to be seen.
Anything else you guys want to talk about before we wrap the show here?
Just to remind people that on October 5th we have the election forum at True. Again, I know I said it earlier, but October 5th, Wednesday, October 5th, 7 p.m. at Thompson Rivers University, Grand Hall, 7 o'clock. And the bonus is Lee's Music is doing all the audio-visual.
Ray Dhaliwal, next week. Arjun Singh, week after. Sadie Hunter, week after.
And week after that's the election.
Week after that, the election. We just mentioned the forum. Check our website out. I wrote a story about the Blazers in today. Can't get to today's too much to get to. Bob Wilkie, mental performance coach.
Story.
Interesting story.
Really good story about
I'll play
mental.
a sound clip right now, actually.
Is there anything different given this year that you've done or your team's done with the Blazers, considering it's a Memorial Cup year, or is it completely just status quo?
We're normalizing the conversation around it. We don't want it to be the elephant in the room. Everybody knows the importance, but we're not going to let it become a distraction. It's a solid plan put together of how they're going to win the Memorial Cup. And if we stick to the plan, if we analyze the plan and we're doing all the things that are going to make us successful, the fact that we're hosting, it's just a nice perk that we get to win the cup in front of our home team.
Anything else you wanted to add?
I just really look forward to winning the cup. Chloe and I have talked about it for years, and we've worked really hard to get where we're at together, and making sure that the kids are mentally and emotionally ready. And we're excited to cap it all off with the ring this year.
Thanks to New Leaf and to Gord's. Gord's is going to take center stage next week. Mike, we haven't heard it yet today. We drink exclusively McDonald's coffee on this show. For Jessica, for Michael, for Chris, for Greg the engineer, for Magic Mike, for Bill, I'm Marty. We'll see you last week.
Last.